This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee Franz. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 73, Submission 804. The first episode of 2020. The first episode of 2020 aired on ABC the night of June 6th, 1978.
Dave Marriage, Sander Van Oker, Sylvia Chase, Dr. Carl Sagan, Thomas Hoving, Geraldo Rivera, Harold Hayes, and Robert Hughes.
I'm Hayes. And I'm Hughes.
So why are we talking about the first episode of 2020?
Well, you should know that this was not the episode that we were going to do, but unfortunately, a couple days ago, we lost Hugh Downs at the ripe old age of 99. We should be so lucky to live so long and rich a life there. But he didn't come till episode 2, because episode 1 of 2020 was a far different animal. And when we say it was a far different animal, that is like understatement of the year, because this show, as it is right now, was not the show as originally intended. The show as originally intended was the brainchild of Rude Arledge, who revolutionized sports television by creating Monday Night Football.
And he also created other news shows, including World News Tonight and Nightline.
So he's hoping to do. So yeah, he was hoping to do that with ABC's news department, with Nightline, which would come, of course, later, and World News Tonight, which I believe started at around the same time. It was a replacement for another news program. But 2020 was supposed to be his jewel. And, you know, nowadays you look at 2020 as, I guess, second banana to 60 Minutes in the television news cycle sort of thing. But back in 1978, it was very experimental.
It didn't know its identity at that point.
Yeah.
And as you heard in the open, the program was hosted by two gentlemen, one by the name of Harold Hayes, who was an editor at Esquire magazine and also was the senior producer of 2020. And the second host was Time magazine art critic Robert Hughes. Definitely not two names that people who watch TV would be familiar with.
Yeah, one was a North Carolina-based journalist, and the other was based in Australia and cut his teeth at the BBC.
Yeah.
And immediately, as the show began, they introduced themselves, and I mean, they gave small bios. Americans aren't familiar with you, Robert Hughes. Can you tell us, who you are? Well, I was born in Australia about 40 years ago, and then I moved to the States a couple of years ago, blah, 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 blah. It's like, really? I don't think necessarily that's the best way to start your news show, instead of saying, okay, here's what's coming up. Introducing your anchors in the first show just didn't seem right.
Just seems a little bit out of place, almost. Like,
I mean, imagine if you're watching any other show and they say, oh, here's this newcomer actor. Well, introduce yourself before we get into the plot of the whole TV series. That it just didn't mesh just from the outset. Before we get to the show itself, let's talk about the opening sequence, because and this was used for a little while after the premiere. This was something? ?
Yeah, imagine a sitcom back in the day with a vanity shot and the actor's name.
Yeah.
Well, this one had such a shot, but it had like specially created rim glasses that looked like the 2020 logo.
Because get it, 2020 vision.
Yeah, and they had little twos on the back of the glasses where they'd be by your ears. Yeah, it was bizarre. And then when the animation aired, the lenses of the glasses would have a test pattern in them. Huh?
Yep. Huh?
Yeah. There was a color bars like a test pattern. And then on the left lens, from the viewer's perspective, would be the name of the correspondent. And on the right-hand side would be the correspondent, a video.
And then it would swap out. It would swap out from time to time. Like the first one was...
Yeah, it would alternate.
Yeah. And let's just introduce our team here. We have Dave Marish. Don't know who he is, but he would be later in the broadcast. Sander Van Oker, who would be in the broadcast, veteran newsman, and he was in the cast of future installment Without Warning.
Well, that came without warning.
I see what you did there. Sylvia Chase, she was actually third in the lineup, and she would go on to be a part of the show for the next 10 years.
Oh, she had a great smile.
She did.
Oh, but the next one.
No, this guy's got a great smile.
Yeah, this one does.
This guy, he's got a great smile. Dr. Carl Sagan, who is basically the Neil deGrasse Tyson of his day. I mean, if you don't know who Carl Sagan is, what podcast are you even listening to?
And honestly, Carl Sagan wouldn't get his popularity until 2 years later with Cosmos.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, he has a face credit. He's nowhere in this episode.
Yeah, but oh my God, when he pops up on screen, it's like standard sitcom smile right there.
Mm-hmm. Also, somebody who was not on the screen, or somebody who may or may not have been in this episode, Thomas Hoving.
I don't remember him being on the episode.
Okay, I don't even know who he is. Who is this guy?
So who is Thomas Hoving?
Yeah.
He was the director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art from 1967 to 1977. So not exactly a television anchor type.
Well, it says on Wiki he was on the arts correspondent on 2020 till 1984.
Okay, so he would be on the show for a while.
Okay,
Yeah.
You know what? Now, I think I'm finally figuring this out. Okay, so this is weird that they don't have every correspondent in the first show, because if you watch 60 Minutes, I think for every episode of 60 Minutes, all the correspondents who are on that episode are shown in the opening sequence.
Oh yes, yeah, everyone.
Yeah, and I think in this case, they're basically covering their bases and saying, okay, here's Carl Sagan, our science correspondent. Here's Thomas Hoving, our arts correspondent. And here's Sander Van Oker, who's our, whatever his specialty was, I'm guessing just general news reporting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was at ABC for the longest time. So that's almost how I look at this now is, okay, you've got your person who does like investigative reporting. You've got your person who does art. You've got your person who does maybe music. You've got your science correspondent. So you're covering all your bases kind of, sort of. Maybe like an entertainment correspondent. And so, yeah, I sort of get it now, kind of.
And you forgot the last part. Special report by someone who will come up in future entry, The Search for Al Capone's Vault, Geraldo Rivera.
Yeah, only this time he looked like Chavo Guerrero, basically.
Which was Chavo Guerrero Sr. is Chavo Guerrero Jr.?
Yes.
So now we've had the open, and we've met our hosts. What was on the show? What made it different than the 2020 we know and love?
Well, it wasn't really that, the stories they cover, they were sort of your off the beaten path. You wouldn't hear this on the evening news sort of investigative reporting. The Secrets of Greyhound Racing Business from Geraldo Rivera. A sort of a heart piece with Flip Wilson, who 5 years ago, as this aired, had quit his incredibly successful variety show, and how he talks about whooping the crap out of his kids. An interview with Governor Jerry Brown, who is thinking about a run for the White House. Spoiler alert, he never gets it.
That won't come for like another 14 years.
Yeah. How ordinary Americans could make nuclear bombs in their backyards. This is an actual story. And a retrospective on the 10th anniversary of Robert F. Kennedy's assassination. It's a news program. It's got news in it.
Because the day this aired, it mentioned the RFK assassination, it would have been 10 years to the day RFK was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not your hard-hitting 2020 like you may be used to. I mean, this was more of a softer fare, except for the first segment about the dog racing. If you see it on YouTube, and it's on YouTube, the whole first episode is on YouTube, it's about a 10-minute segment, and this may not air nowadays, and if it does, immediately PETA's on the phone saying, "What the heck are you doing?" In this piece, there was video of greyhounds practicing their running by going after live bait, and they showed multiple rabbits being basically slaughtered, being mauled to death. And that was a bit much. I know they gave a warning ahead of time saying, you know, your kids may not want to watch this, but that was very, very graphic, especially
that
for
was
78.
It's like you thought for a moment that this new news program, you thought it was going to go hard. You thought it was going to go hard.
It did go hard.
It went too hard.
Yeah.
And then
you remember that not 5 minutes ago they had a sort of "this was the week that was" sort of montage.
Oh yeah, I wanted to describe that. So yeah, they described what was the top stuff in the segment before in the week and talk about.
They called it the Wayward Week.
Yeah, that Saturday Night Fever was the top album that week. The Bob Hope USO special was Bob Hope US.
The USO tribute to Bob Hope.
Yeah, Bob Hope USO tribute. Yeah, that was number one. The book Bloodline by Sidney Sheldon was the number one book. And they talk about, man, this is random, about a Giants-Dodgers game, which was won by a pinch hit grand slam by Mike Ivy. And you might be wondering, who is Mike Ivy? I looked up his stats on Baseball Reference, and he had like an 11-year career where he hit .269, and he had 81 home runs for his career with 411 RBIs. Actually, his best year would be the following year with the Giants, where he had 27 home runs and 89 RBIs.
And throughout this entire Wayward Week segment, maybe it was just me, but both of them, their dialogue came across as very sarcastic and condescending.
Yeah. I mean, you look at all of the stories they're covering. I have a list of all the stories, and this comes courtesy of internetisinamerika.blogspot.com. This was an entry from 2017, so not current at all. A tanker in the British Channel gets blown to smithereens to prevent an oil spill. Jimmy Carter blasts the USSR and Cuba at a NATO meeting for monkeying around in Africa. The Cuban ballet performs at the Kennedy Center for the first time since Castro came to power. The tops of the week that Greg just mentioned. An $11 million diamond found in Africa, if that means anything.
And they talk about the dollar coin being changed to Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah, because originally it was going to be Lady Liberty on it, and they actually showed a mock-up, maybe a prototype rather than a mock-up, of the 1977 silver dollar with Lady Liberty on it.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, it's not the last time we'll be talking about the dollar coin on this podcast, because we'll be talking about The Golden Dollar commercials from 2000 with Michael Keaton as the voice of George Washington.
Nice. And they end the Wayward Week with inflation causing beef prices to skyrocket. And here's Robert Hughes in his Australian wit saying, imagine living to become a hamburger.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little bizarre, but that almost sort of summarizes this entire show in like one sentence, because it was very weird, and we haven't even gotten to some of the weird stuff.
Oh, hold up. I just realized something. We forgot to mention that Geraldo Rivera Greyhound piece. You know who he talks to in one, Geraldo talks to in one part of the segment?
What's that?
Bob Dole.
Bob Dole.
Bob Dole.
Bob Dole. Yeah, because he would have been 2 years removed from being Gerald Ford's running mate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he would have. And still alive, in case you forgot. He's 97 now, it looks like. 96, yes. 97. But again, that wasn't even the weirdest of this. The one thing I thought was, and I've never seen this on a news show, is when they came back from a couple commercial breaks, they actually showed, I don't want to say arcane words, but I'm going to say arcane words. They showed a word, spelled it out, and then gave it its definition. And this happened twice on the premiere episode. They gave two of these words, and kind of coincidentally, it's sort of interesting I use the word arcane because the first word shown is arcane. Mysterious, secret, obscure. Right now, 2020 is educational, informational, investigative when it's talking about the dog racing. Then we get to the human interest piece, kind of sort of about Flip Wilson, who left show business 5 years ago after a divorce and getting 3 of his 4 children.
Yeah.
And so we're going all over the place. We go from the hard-hitting Greyhound racing investigation to Flip Wilson 5 years after he left show business. But, of course, he returned later because he will show up in future installment People Are Funny from 1984.
And another future installment, Charlie and Company.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Oh, yeah. Also featuring a pre-Urkel Jaleel White.
Yep.
And then
the late, great Christoph St. John.
Yeah.
And then we get back to, we get another word after the second commercial. Exogenesis, critical explanation or interpretation is the meaning of that word.
Okay. All right, but hold up. We got to talk about an ad before we get to the next segment. They have a promo for the 1978 Daytime Emmy Awards, and who is narrating it?
Ernie Anderson?
Yes. Oh, yes. And Richard Dawson is hosting it, by the way. So, yeah, you know it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But also, okay, there's a follow-up for a segment, a show coming up on ABC that Ernie narrates. And this is amazing. It's hosted by Hal Linden, and it's called Are You a Missing Heir?
This was the forerunner to the every so often the news will do a story on, do you have unclaimed property? As they do in conjunction with your state or municipality's missing claims office. By the way, I did look into one of those things, and I had $500 one time.
Me and Mike, we searched. It is not on YouTube. It's not on Daily Motion. So this show, Are You a Missing Heir? If we can somehow get a copy of this, we'll have it on the list.
This is going to be up there with the American Pilot of Sailor Moon, basically.
Oh, it's up there on the Holy Grails. It's up there with any episode of Mr. Smith. It's up there with the 4 episodes of Second Chance that are on YouTube. It's up there with Legwork with Margaret Colin. It's up there on our show, Holy Grails.
So we get back to the show, and a second word is shown, exegesis, and the definition of that is a critical explanation or interpretation. But then we get into the story about a 22-year-old who is creating or is trying to create nuclear bombs at home.
Yeah, I've seen a picture of this 22-year-old. He has Geraldo's mustache and what looks to be the beginnings of a comb-over. He's 22.
And, before the segment, do you know what they play clips of?
Future installment, The Amazing Spider-Man.
With Nicholas Hammond as Peter Parker.
Nicholas Hammond.
We'll cover that whenever the third MCU Spider-Man movie comes out.
And he just looks a little creepy.
A little creepy?
Just a little creepy.
Wait, Nicholas Hammond looks creepy? Oh, you're talking about the other guy.
The guy who built a non-work... he said it was a nuclear bomb. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah, so that was a thing. But we haven't even gotten to the weird part yet.
Oh, my God. Oh.
Well, next, as we said, was a profile on Jerry Brown, the then governor of California, who was considering running for presidency.
Yeah, Jerry Brown, the then governor and future governor of California.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around California politics at this point for like 35, 40 years.
And his daughter was on American Idol.
What?
His daughter was a contestant on American Idol.
That is, wow. Jerry Brown. Wow. You're what an amazing man he is. He can produce an American Idol contestant.
Yeah, she didn't make it out of the top 16, by the way.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
Well, and also at the same time, people who created American Idol stars, please remember, Greg, former New York Giants player Felipe Sparks created Jordan.
Who went all the way.
Who is an American Idol. Didn't get booted off at any point.
Oh, yeah, and a great national anthem singer.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So there's a commercial break after the profile of Jerry Brown, and the two hosts actually speak to Jerry Brown, and I thought this was super corny.
Are you talking about the whole, it looks sort of like a green screen sort of thing?
It sort of looks like a green screen, but they drop the screen against a wall background. Oh. And to start with, you don't even see the faces of the two anchors. They're sort of like, it's the back of their heads. I almost sort of get the feeling I'm watching like Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, when
they show the start of the movie,
yes,
or the start of the review, you'd see the back of their heads. That's how this came across to me, and it just doesn't seem professional.
Well, you have to remember, this is 1978 technology they're working on.
Well, I understand it's 1978 technology, but it just doesn't seem terribly professional. A news show, what you could do is you could have had one camera focused on the two anchors and another camera focused on Jerry Brown, and you could have done that just like we have nowadays. In 1978, it would have been contemporary technology, but it would look rudimentary in 2020. But it just looked really weird, and then sometimes they actually show the faces of the anchors asking questions to Jerry Brown, and I mean this may have been new-ish technology at the time, because I don't think live broadcasts were necessarily a new.
Oh no, live broadcasts were not new at all. I mean, they had time to
live broadcasts like this, live interviews.
They had time to
this definitely wasn't live.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, they could have edited out the less flattering bits, because when they did do the interview, it ran a total of an astonishing 4 minutes.
4 minutes?
4 minutes.
Yeah. And again, it just felt very hokey, some of the reactions, some of the banter that between the two hosts. But that wasn't even the weird part of the show. Because
I'm going to tell you. Let me tell you right now. His father, Jerry Brown's father, his advice was not to run against Carter, and Jerry Brown says, I think that's a good idea. Not running against Carter.
Well,
which segues into.
Well, I was going to say, before we segue into that, maybe running against Carter after 78 would have been a good thing, because really, '79 was not a good year for Carter between 3 Mile Island and gas prices and the hostage situation. '79 was not the best year for Carter, so
No.
maybe if he stuck in there, it might work, but enough about my political commentary. But yeah, the Jerry Brown interview then segued to, this is something you definitely wouldn't see on 2020 nowadays.
No.
There was a Claymation segment, it was maybe about 2 minutes long, with a Claymation Jimmy Carter lip syncing Ray Charles's Georgia on My Mind. Now, first off, the animation of Jimmy Carter is anything but flattering. The big lips, the droopy jowls.
It looks like something out of the California Raisins.
It probably was made by Will Vinton, for all we know.
I'll take a look at the credits at the end. But it got really weird because he was kissing the moon at one point. The moon grabbed him, and he kissed the moon. And then at the end, he was dancing with the state of Georgia. It was out of place, to say the least. Very weird. Yeah. And then we go from the weird to the reflective, because we get the segment on the 10th anniversary of Robert F. Kennedy's assassination. So now we've gone from like a big interview at the time to absurdity to here's a memorial of somebody beloved who was assassinated 10 years ago today. Everything about this is a friggin' train wreck. And then to make it worse, at the end of the show, again, more awkward banter between the hosts. But then the way it closes, they do the credit roll, but then after the credit roll, hey, it's more Claymation. It's now a Walter Cronkite animation saying, and that's the way it is. And then Walter Cronkite, he folds up a piece of paper into a paper airplane and throws it. What?
Huh?
No, I mean, that doesn't make much sense. That's just, I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. This is such a bizarre show, this first episode of 2020.
Yeah,
it was.
And we're going to talk about some of the reviews in a minute. The Claymation segment, conceived by Robert Grossman, Craig Whitaker, and James Picker. So
Okay, so it was not a Will Vinton Claymation.
Nope.
Oh, now I'm just disappointed.
Well, you should be disappointed with the entirety of the show, because
I am disappointed with the entirety of the show.
No, I was very happy with the "Are You a Missing Air" commercial.
You know what I was happy with? Gunther Gable Williams hawking American Express with his
Yes! We're having more fun talking about the commercials than we were about the show. Talking about, the Gunther Gable Williams commercial for American Express with the tiger, and talking about Are You a Missing Air commercial. And then even there's a commercial for soap, because at that point, soap was airing in late nights at some point.
This was before Nightline and Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, if you look, it is right in the last commercial break. Soap was airing late at night. Now you got to remember, soap was really big back then,
and soap was a controversial show,
and very controversial too. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they were airing, I think, season-old reruns in late night.
Yeah, because I mean it premiered in '77, so at that point,
and Nightline didn't premiere until the hostage crisis.
Right, until '79. Yeah, but the reviews.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, you knew changes were afoot after some of these reviews came in.
Oh God, Mike, do you have the reviews in front of you?
I have a number of them. Yes.
Okay.
I'm so excited to see these reviews.
So am I.
The New York Times described the show as dizzyingly absurd, which I understand. Again, there was really no consistency to the show. It wasn't a serious show. It wasn't a comedic show. It was a little bit of both. And the thing is, you had different segments that sort of contrasted each other. You didn't have hard-hitting, and then maybe lighter fare or a little lighter fare, and then maybe like super light, fluffy fare. No, you went from the dog racing expose to let's talk to Flip Wilson. Oh, and here's the definition of word as we come back from break. And then we go to another, weird segment about the guy who tried creating a nuclear bomb. So I could definitely understand dizzyingly absurd. And then we have the whole animation with Jerry Brown. And then we come back and we go to a very sentimental remembrance of Robert Kennedy. That just, the timing and everything just didn't make any sense. You went from, serious to goofy, back to serious, back to goofy, and then you had awkward dialogue between the two hosts, and it was just an absolute mess.
Well, it was ironic that the New York Times described it as, what did you say it was?
Dizzyingly absurd.
Well, that ironically describes the New York Times in the year 2020.
Also, the Washington Post, they were a little more straightforward instead of saying just dizzyingly absurd. 2020 was the trashiest stab at candy cane journalism yet.
Damn, and this was with Geraldo Rivera on staff.
Ooh.
Yeah. And Rune Arledge, in his autobiography, said that probably the most embarrassing part of the initial program was the segments involving Jimmy Carter singing George on My Mind and Walter Cronkite in the close of the show. Because, again, that's not really news-ish. That's almost like something you'd see on Saturday Night Live at that point. Just very bizarre. But, guys, after these reviews and after seeing how the show was, there were changes made, and they were made immediately.
Yeah, I believe everybody was fired like 3 seconds after the Claymation segment aired.
Harold Hayes and Robert Hughes were gone, as was the original executive producer, a gentleman named Bob Shanks. And then for the following week's show, Hugh Downs came aboard, and the rest is history. Now, we don't have access to the second episode. That's not online or to be seen anywhere. But in the first episode, they mentioned that there would be a second part to the piece about building a nuclear bomb, about the possibility of civilians being able to build their own nuclear bombs. With all these changes, I wonder if they ever even showed the second half of that.
That's a good question.
If anybody knows, why don't they drop a line off here at the station? Contact it was a thing on TV.com.
Also, I think at that point, if you're talking about the hypotheticals of making a nuclear bomb, how is that almost not right up Carl Sagan's alley? I know he was more astronomy than nuclear science, but still, it's still in the same family, the scientific family.
Yeah, why couldn't you have gotten him on that segment?
It would make perfect sense.
Yeah, considering, and he does know something about nuclear weapons because he is featured on the panel of the ABC News Viewpoint in '83 that aired after the day after, so he knows a little something about nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
So Hugh Downs was hosting 2020 by himself, at least for the first about 3 years. Because Barbara Walters joined the program, it says, in 1979, and she wasn't really a co-anchor at that point. She was more of a special contributor.
Because wasn't she co-hosting the network news with Harry Reasoner?
I think so, yeah.
I believe, because, yes, she was lured away from NBC around 76, I believe, and she got paid. So it's almost like we go back to the Letterman pay or play thing. She got paid, so she played. And actually, she wouldn't become a co-anchor with Hugh Downs actually until 1984. So apparently Downs was the true host, the only host, if you will, until for a good 6 years, until 84. And then Barbara Walters was officially named the co-anchor at that point.
And remember, they did work together at NBC on the Today Show.
Uh-huh.
They did, yes. Wow. I mean, it's just so weird watching this show and comparing it to what you'd see even back in like the 90s and 80s. There were some very hard-hitting episodes back in the day about, let's say, controversial and non-popular topics that aren't necessarily taboo per se, but just stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see on the nightly news.
Yeah, it was a very informative show because I'd watch a couple episodes of 2020 after TGIF.
Oh yeah,
the early 90s. It was like, oh, Hugh and before I go to bed, I want to see what Hugh and Barbara are reporting on.
As one does, obviously.
Yeah, Barbara Walters. She was like the friendly grandmother at 10 o'clock.
Telling you, okay, this is everything that happened in the world this week. It's time to go to bed now.
But it's Friday and I want to stay up.
The Smurfs are airing tomorrow morning. Good night!
At this point, 2020 would have been airing on Thursdays.
Thursday nights,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. And actually, I think this first episode aired on a Tuesday, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It makes sense.
I do like how Robert Hughes signed off.
Yeah, he was
Oh,
very...
I thought that was bizarre.
Courage. Okay, I'll just say, courage. We're all in it together.
And somewhere Dan Rather's watching and thinking, you know what? That sounds like a good word to use one day. Courage.
Well, I don't know how many people were in it together since they didn't make it to the next week.
No.
Mm-mm. So this episode, of course, nowadays 2020 is part of the vanguard of televised, hard-hitting investigative journalism that 60 Minutes continues to be the go-to for. Hey, if you're going to be second to somebody, you might as well be second to a grizzly, right?
Well, technically, wouldn't it be like third, considering like Dateline's kind of the number 2?
Well, Dateline hasn't been around as much as 2020 has.
Okay. But, I mean, Dateline does have Keith Morrison.
Yes. And that awesome haircut of his.
Ah.
Yeah. But in June of 1978, it was a thing with Jimmy Carter as a claymation.
Indeed.
In honor of the late, great Hugh Downs. We're in touch, so you be in touch.
Row!
And that's the way it is. Tuesday, June 6th, 1978.
The first episode of 2020, well, that was something else. Man, a far cry from the show that we would later get to know with the now late great Hugh Downs and Barbara. But hey, even the best shows have to have a rocky start at first. So, right now, here at Place to Be Nation Pop, we got some great shows that have come out in the last week. In episode 3 of Piece of the Action, Matt welcomes Scott Criscolo to the podcast to watch The Expendables. Listen to Matt and Scott talk about Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Jet Li, Mickey Rourke's unique look in this movie, Valena, bad plastic surgery, cauliflower ears, and so much more on episode 3 of Piece of the Action. And in episode 27 of Laugh in Theater, Andy Afferton is joined by Lee Ellis of Geeks Who Like Sports to do a live watch of the 1985 comedy Back to the Future. The guys discuss many of the Easter eggs in the movie, like the Pizza Hut outfits, Peanut Brittle, the DeLorean, time travel movies, costumes for dogs, driving safety tips, purple underwear, Frankenstein, Biff's running bunnies, the rhythmic ceremonial rituals, building models to scale, spike punch, and guitar solos. So remember, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And in Diamond Conversations, the latest episode welcomes former Braves, Phillies, and Rockies pitcher Marvin Freeman. With an awesome look back to players of the 80s, Marvin Freeman talks about some of the most important pitching moments of his career,
players he had the most success with, and his first MLB win against the Mets in 1986. They also discussed the Freeman Baseball Academy and the Marvin Freeman Youth Foundation. Also, be sure to check out the PTBN wrestling feed, which includes a dive into topics running the gamut from the day's WWE through yesteryear. The feed includes the Place to Be podcast, Main Event, Jenny and the Gems, Body Pressure Luck, PTB NXT, the NWA Saturday Special, and so much more. Subscribe today. And while we're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed as well. It is the home of Geek and Sassy Talk and Pop, Freak Out Driving, The Journey Through Infinity, Telling Stories, and more. Also, check out the North-South Connection, brought to you by JT Rizzero, Chad Campbell, and Aaron George. It is the home for Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, the Extreme Three-Way Dance, the Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast, Carolina Dreaming, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and more. And on the social media pages, the greatest song from a movie tournament is currently going on. Keep tabs on the tournament Facebook page for details. And we have our 2020 PTBN Stretch Project right now that's determining the greatest WCW match ever. You have all year to do the research, promote matches, and build the list. Conversation rules can be found at www.facebook.com/GWCW matches or on the PWO message board. And be sure not to forget to check out PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. We have new voices and fresh takes, review articles on topics in the worlds of wrestling, sports, and pop culture that include Trent SmackDown on Fox Report, This Week in the WWE by John Crow, Steve Riddle's Wonderful World of Disney Reviews, Paulie's Perspective, Matt's live-action Disney movie reviews, Ben's Unpopular Opinion, and don't forget about veteran columns like Glenn Butler's Wednesday Walk Around the Web. And if you're doing online shopping at Amazon.com, be sure to click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the PTBN homepage or use www.placetobenation.com/Amazon. It'll take you right to Amazon and it'll help out PTBN at no cost to you. Alright guys, we're going back into the game show pool here as we go back to the years 1974 and 1975 as a popular Mark Goodson, Bill Todman game show was trying to keep up the ever-changing times in the game show landscape. It is Password, and we will be talking about Password All-Stars and the revamped version of Password in 1975 on ABC. So let's go to episode number 74 right now.
Episode 74, submission number 258, Password All-Stars. Password All-Stars aired on ABC Daytime from November 18, 1974 to February 21, 1975. It then reverted to a civilian format in February 24th, 1975, until its finale on June 27th, 1975.
Competing today for $25,000 in the Grandmaster Tournament. These are the Password All-Star finalists. Richard Dawson, Bill Bixby, Al Linden, and Betty White. Now, the host of Password All-Stars, Alan Lutz.
Okay, this is it. This is the finals day on our Grandmaster.
Guys, I think we can all agree that Password is probably one of the best game shows in history and probably like the preeminent game.
The gold standard of word games, basically.
Indeed. But I was going to say it's probably the preeminent game of the 60s and early 70s.
Oh, definitely. It was the game show of game shows back in the day. It was that and Jeopardy as the top two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the prizes weren't all that big. And actually in the 60s, it really didn't matter because after the game show scandals of the late 50s, you saw the prizes take a severe hit. You weren't playing for tens of thousands of dollars. You were playing for hundreds of dollars. So, and that's the case with Password in the 60s and 70s, you would not have many people winning more than, say, $1,000. And I think even like the biggest money winner in Password up until about 1974, I think was somewhere, I want to say in the range of, not including like special tournaments, it was only in the range of maybe about $4,000 or so. But then they had tournaments where they'd come back and, they'd have the best players going for, say, $10,000. But, I mean, it was not a big money game by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, no. In fact, it wouldn't be until, like, Password Plus where would be, like, it was played for serious stakes.
Well, it was a little bit before then, because if you've seen the episodes from the early 70s that are on YouTube, they played pretty much the same game they played in the 60s, except the one big difference was the money that you won in the lightning round, you could wager some or all of it on a sixth word. So you could conceivably win, I believe, $600. It was $500 maximum for the lightning round and then $100 for the game.
Yeah.
Whereas you could win $350 in the 60s. Well, we get to 1974, and game shows had changed a little bit by then because you had the Joker's Wild giving away thousands of dollars. You had Price is Right giving away thousands of dollars.
You had Match Game giving away thousands of dollars.
You had Match Game. You had the $10,000 pyramid. You had High Rollers. You had basically every other show giving away thousands of dollars, hand over fist, and Password was still handing out $600 to the big winners at most. So we had some changes that came along in 1974 to potentially boost the ratings. We had some gimmicks. Monty Hall hosted the show for a couple of weeks in July of 1974. And Alan Ludden actually was a celebrity for those 2 weeks, along with Elizabeth Montgomery.
Yeah, because Elizabeth Montgomery was like a regular on Password back in the day.
Yeah, she would be, if it wasn't for Betty White, I believe she would be Mrs. Password.
Or Carol Burnett, but that's another argument for another day. And then you had Celebrity Weeks with 4 celebrities playing the entire week for charity. You had celebrities and their children play 1 week, and then actually that week was followed by celebrities and their wives. And then there was a Celebrity Husbands and Wives Charity Week.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah, and all that was in the month of September and early October of 74. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there were 2 weeks with big winners from the show's history playing in October through early November of 1974. And finally, the first full week of November of 74, the show's writers and producers played a game for charity with George Peppard and Linda K. Henning. On November 18th, 1974, Password caught up with the times. Not only did they introduce us to Password All-Stars, but there was this glitzy, humongous set that came with it.
Nice red, white, and blue 70s era set, even down to the sort of Mountain Dewish looking logo they had in the backdrop.
And as is the trope with game shows, especially in the 70s and 80s, people are supposedly going to watch celebrities play game shows. Get rid of the contestants, the civilians, and just have celebrities play, and they're going to bring in the ratings, right?
Oh, boy.
As we find out in many future entries, that strategy never works.
No.
Well, this one worked for a number of months. This did get 2, if you want to call them series in the British vernacular, we did get 2 different runs of Password All-Stars. But by late February 75, it did revert to a celebrity with civilians game.
February 21st, 1975 was the All-Stars finale, and February 24th, 1975 was the return of celebrities and civilians on Password.
So Password All-Stars was a bit of a different beast than what we're used to with Password from the 60s and up until November 21st of 1974.
Mm-hmm.
The main difference with the main game was we had a double option now. And what double allowed you to do was if you had this nailed, you can get this on one clue and not give control to the other side, you could play for 20 points. Now, mind you, the game was still played to 25 points at this time. So this was your almost golden snitch, virtually, kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Well, because, even if you had 5 points and the other team's at 24, we're going to go for double. And if you get it, you win 25 to 24. But if you don't get it, the other team gets to give another clue and also plays for the same 20 points. So there's a potential 40-point swing there. So you got to be very judicious with how you play the double. You can't just be like for everything, okay, I'm going to double it. We're going to just get this done in 2 words. Nope. Because if you screw up, the game could be over in 2 words.
And they do kind of address the faultiness with the score with the double option when they go back to the civilian version.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit, though. So the 2 tournaments themselves, I know Greg had something he wanted to say about that.
Well, first, do you have the information on the first finale, or?
I have the winner. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Who's the winner?
James Chiquetta.
Okay, guys, but the second Password All-Stars finale, the final episode of Password All-Stars, what a magnificent quartet of celebrity contestants for this.
Oh, yes.
Episode.
We had Richard Dawson, Hal Linden, Bill Bixby, and Mrs. Password, Betty White.
And the thing you got to remember, Hal Linden, we already mentioned in our last episode, with Are You a Missing Heir? And dear Lord, guys, we need to find a copy of that Are You Missing Heir? Please send it to us. Please. We need to know.
Greg's begging.
I really want to know if somehow my parents are like a missing heir to like a fortune or something. I don't know. Maybe they were asleep in 1978 when this special was on. I don't know. But please send it to us. But all right. But also I want to mention about Hal Linden. Now, 1975. This would be in the middle of the first season of Barney Miller, I think.
Yeah, the first season would have been 74, yes.
And funny enough, Richard Dawson, is in this. By the way, doesn't Brett Summers make a guest spot in an episode of Barney Miller?
I think so.
She does.
She would have been on Odd Couple at the time.
But she did make a guest spot on Barney Miller. I know this because there's a clip of her in the tribute to Jack Sue.
She actually appeared twice.
Okay.
75, she appeared as Mrs. Stavacek, and in 76 as Edna Relke. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. There you go. Well, yeah. Connection there with the Match Game family, considering Richard Dawson is in this finale. And of course, this is a year before Richard Dawson would be the king of ABC on Family Feud.
Yeah, but he was still like the king of daytime TV in 75 between Match Game
and
potentially this kind of sort of.
Yeah, because I would assume he would have been like a frequent guest on Password on ABC.
Yeah, it's all in the Mark Goodson family. So
yeah.
Bill Bixby would have. Would the Courtship of Eddie's Father has still been on in 75? Because The Incredible Hulk's not until like 77, 78 on CBS.
Okay.
No, Courtship
would have been canceled.
Yeah, 72.
Okay. What would Bill Bixby be doing in 75?
I'm checking. The Magician, maybe?
Probably.
No, that was one season.
Okay.
Future Entry, The Magician.
Well, yeah, at that point, Bill Bixby may have just been Bill Bixby from The Magician and The Courtship of Eddie's Father.
Yeah.
It is.
My favorite and also we should add My Favorite Martian.
Yeah, The Magician would have been canceled for a year by this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, it looks like he's doing some guest shots on different shows.
He would have been Love Boating it or something. I don't know.
Well, Love Boat wouldn't have been until 77, but He looks like he did an episode of Ironside, The Streets of San Francisco.
Ironside, the reboots of Future Entry.
Mannix, Barbary Coast. So he was, I don't want to say taking a little time off because, from being a star, but yeah, this was not a busy time in his life.
It wouldn't be until like Incredible Hulk would premiere like 2-3 years after this on CBS.
Yeah, that would be 1977, so that's 2 years later.
And also, by the way, guys, as we mentioned before, the Incredible Hulk TV movies are a future installment. So
yeah,
and yeah, Betty White in 1975 would still be on Mary Tyler Moore at this time.
Yeah.
Because Mary Tyler Moore would have been till 1977, I believe, on CBS.
Yeah, 1977. Yes, and she was Sue Ann Nivens. Who can't forget her if you've seen the Mary Tyler Moore show?
Yes.
And the winner of this sort of quartet of stars would get not just $25,000 for charity, but also a commemorative plate.
Yeah, to be recognized as the Grand Master.
And we should also add that everybody that played in the final had already won $5,000 for their charity.
Mm-hmm.
And now that makes me wonder, Richard Dawson passed away 8 years ago.
Yep.
Already? It's 8 years?
It's been 8 years,
2012.
yes.
Yeah, 2012. I wonder what happened to that plate. If it stayed in the family or if there was an estate sale at some point. Who knows?
I wonder if the family's still... Man, that would be another great thing to put in the museum.
The All-Stars Grandmaster Tournament plate.
Yeah, we put that in the museum. We put it in a glass case. I would like to see a picture of that trophy.
I'd like to just see that come up for auction.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
So after the second Password All-Stars tournament, well, the ratings weren't good. And oh, surprise, putting celebrities on a game show, all celebrities, does not draw in viewers.
I'm shocked. This is my Password All-Stars password. Shocked face.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Chico.
Yeah, that's our Chico. Unfortunately, network television executives never got the memo that celebrities all the time don't equal ratings.
Yeah. Celebrity Hot Potato, Celebrity Fuse, Celebrity Bullseye. Celebrity. I'm going to go out of my mind.
All the celebrities. Look at all these celebrities. Not a civilian among them. Enter February 21st.
So, starting on the 24th of February in 1975, goodbye Celebrity Tournament, hello civilians.
And hello, Password 75.
Hi, I'm Alan Ludden, and these are the contestants who'll be playing today with Betty White and Vicki Lawrence. And the name of the game is Password. Well, it's good to have you back with us. This is the end of our third week.
So this was a different beast of a password.
Oh, was it ever?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't your two celebrities and two contestants. And, okay, you played to 25 points, then you do the lightning round, swap the celebrities, and do it again like they did in the 60s. No.
This is serious stuff, people.
This is the evolution of going from a 60s parlor game to a true mid-70s game show, including, as we said, the big, colorful set, the bombastic music. I mean, the music is, it's really not what you'd expect for a password type of show, but dang it, it works. It is great.
I believe the tune of this is called Bicentennial Funk.
Yes, it is.
It is very bicentennial-y, and it's very funky.
Yep.
So now you have 4 contestants and 2 celebrities, and there's a qualifier now. So you have the 2 celebrities, and they're alternating giving clues to a password. And if you think you know the answer, You hit your buzzer, and this arrow almost like comes up and hits you in the face, in the chin. Yeah, an arrow signifying you're the one that jumped in with this little whoop sound effect. And if you're right, you get 1 point. If not, you're out for the rest of the word. And whenever somebody gets a word, they get a point. 3 points advances them on to the main game. And the first 2 people to get 3 points play the main game. The other 2 leave with whatever winnings they previously had, or consolation prizes, or a combination of both. The main game now becomes essentially classic password.
But there's one difference.
Well, there's 2 differences. One is we've retained the double option.
Mm-hmm.
But the second now is you're not playing to 25 points.
Playing to 50.
You're playing to 50 points, yes.
So now instead of winning it in 2 words, you can win it at minimum 3 words.
But more realistically, probably at least 6 words.
6 words at least.
Yeah, because, I mean, the double option is not played that often. I don't even think it's played on any of the civilian shows that exist. I know it's used on the final episode of the All-Stars that we talked about earlier with Richard Dawson and Bill Bixby, but I don't remember it being played in the civilian format on the 2 shows that are out there. So now 50 points is the objective of the game, and whoever loses that goes back into the elimination pool, and you play the whole elimination pool with the 2 people who played the main game, the winner and the loser, and 2 new people. And again, you know, the first 2 people to get 3 points, they move on, whether they played in the last game or not. So it's just that cycle. But on top of that, the bonus game, the new lightning round.
Oh.
The big money lightning round.
The lightning round where really you need an advanced math degree to figure out how much you're playing for.
And and Mike, this bonus game's like too complicated for you.
Well, it's not too complicated. I've got a math degree, thank you very much.
Well, that's what I meant.
It's not too complicated for me, but the thing is, for the average viewer, whoosh, right over the head. Whoosh. So it's played in 3 separate levels. Yes, this isn't your normal lightning round where, okay, $50 a word, or even the 70s version, the earlier version, where, okay, $50 a word, but you can wager some or all of your money on the 6th word. Oh, no, this is a 3-tiered beast. So part 1, you've got 3 passwords. You need to get your partner to say those 3 passwords in 30 seconds. Getting a password is worth $25. Now, hold on. Here's where it gets really weird. For every second left on the clock, you get an additional 5 seconds. Okay? Now, take that money to level 2. The passwords in the second part are now equal to how much you won in the first round.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll explain all this. I'll give an example later. And if you get all 3 passwords in this second part, you get $10 per second that's left on the clock. Okay? So you can earn up to 3 times what you earned in the first round for the 3 passwords, plus $10 per second. And then, this might be actually the easiest math of all. For the third round, the final round, if you get all 3 passwords, you win 10 times what you earned in the second round. Okay, I know this sounds confusing.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so we'll do an example right now.
Is this where you get your whiteboard and your
This is where I get my a piece of paper. See, this is why this should be a video podcast.
You're doing your best impression of Tim Russell in the 2000 presidential election.
But yeah, with numbers instead. Okay. Yeah. So let's say in part 1, you got all 3 passwords, plus how many seconds did you have left on the clock?
Let's go with an even 5.
5 seconds. Okay. So you get $25 per password, and then you have 5 seconds left, and that's $5 per second. So that's a nice even $100. Chico made this really nice. So
You're
there's
welcome.
$100, okay?
$100.
All right. So then on level 2, you're playing for $100 a password.
$100 a password.
So if you get all 3, and let's throw in a different number that you have for seconds left. Let's say you have 8 seconds left.
Okay,
so that's $80.
$80.
So 3 times 100 is 300, and 8 times 10 is 80. So add them together, you have $380, and that means you'd be playing the final round for 10 times that amount, which would be $3,800. Easy, right?
Is it?
Sure. Also, we should add that even if you got 1 or 2 passwords in the second part, you played the third part for the 10 times the money. So you could still make, $1,000 or $2,000 there. But if you bombed on any of the levels at any time, you won what you got in the previous level. So if you bombed out on level 1, you won nothing. But if you bombed out on level 2, you got the $25 per password plus the $5 for every second. So, if you had like 13 seconds left after round 1, that would be $65 plus the 75 would be 140. So you'd get the 140 if you totally bombed out on level 2. But since you bombed out on level 2, you can't go to level 3. And actually, that's actually sort of one bonus is if you get at least one word, let's say that $140, at least you could play for $1,400 in round 3. That's a little something. I mean, $1,400 would make you like the all-time champion password before 1974 at this point.
Yeah.
So, you do need like a slide rule or an abacus to figure out how much money you're playing for. And, of course, Alan Ludden being just the slickest host ever, it just rolled off his tongue. I mean, you could tell he was reading cue cards really well, or he didn't go to the Dick Clark School of Mathematics.
Now let's add up your money so far. 3 words at $25, $75, 13 seconds saved at $5, $65, total $140, which means that each of the 3 words that we're going to show Betty now is going to be worth $140 to you if you get them.
But after all of that, the winning contestant and the contestant he or she just defeated, they'd play with 2 more players, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they do another qualifier.
Okay.
And I don't know about anything in terms of how long a champion can be on there, because Alan Ludden actually mentions in one of the episodes, you stay on the show until you lose. And even after just a few months of this new format, people had enough password. It got canceled. And
it was long in the tooth to begin with.
It was long in the tooth to begin with, but also then you add on this complex bonus game, and it was put out to pasture and replaced by future installment show-offs.
Mm-hmm.
But lo and behold, give it about 3.5 years, it returned to NBC, as we mentioned earlier, as Password Plus, and it survived for 3.5 years on NBC. And then it came back 2 years later after that and had a 5-year run as Super Password. So you cannot kill a good game show. It will return. And let's also remember that even in the 2000s, Password returned with Regis and $1 million passwords. So it's still a timeless game show that found a way into the 21st century.
Hopefully one day we'll have it back on as part of ABC's Summer and Fun and Games.
Hopefully.
So Password, it was a beloved game show in the 60s and early 70s. But ratings and time caught up to it. They had to make some changes. And bringing aboard celebrities, just didn't work. And then they tried doing it with civilians. And that was just a little bizarre as well. And even though we love Password in these parts, when it comes to the mid-'70s and Password, it was just a thing on TV.
Yep. But you know what? Give Alan credit. Give Alan Lennon and everybody at Mark Goodson, Bill Todman, all the credit in the world for trying. Nobody mailed it in. Nobody.
No. They did some tinkering. They tried some stuff, and unfortunately, it didn't work. But as I said, game shows from, say, the early to mid-'60s and game shows in the mid-'70s were two totally different beasts.
Yeah.
In the 60s, you can get away with playing games for low stakes with low technology and basically celebrity-studded games, which is really what the draw was. I mean, it is the game, but also they had some major star power back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And they still had some in the 70s, but again, once 72, 73 came along and you had this era of $10,000 game shows, $5,000 game shows. Yeah, unless you're going to throw more money into the situation, you need to make some other changes. And yeah, there were some desperate times, and they tried throwing things at the wall to see if they'd stick, and they stuck for a little while, but it's not really a memorable part of the Password history.
No, it is not.
And when they got to Password Plus in '79, that's when it just became like, now this is like a serious game, folks. This is like serious stakes on the line.
Well, it's not just serious stakes, but also they've evolved the game to the point where now the passwords themselves are clues to a bigger puzzle.
Yes, that was that was a twist. That was hence the plus.
Yes. Well, guys, do you know what the password to a good time is?
What?
Go into our website at www.itwasathingontv.com and listen to our library of over 75 previous episodes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and we've covered, so much stuff over 75. I mean, the official 75th episode is going to be next week, but obviously between live shows and episode 0, there's over 75 episodes to listen to there now. And we've covered a lot of stuff, and we've just scratched the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if we look at next week, oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Dear.
I don't want to say one of these is going to be a Greg show, but...
one of them is going to definitely be a Greg show.
And it's not a wrestling show. We'll just say that.
It's not a wrestling show. It's not like a lost spinoff of Manimal.
No, it's a show that... It was recently added to our submission list. One of us found it, and Greg has been watching quite a bit of it the last couple of weeks.
And I'm obsessed with this.
He seriously is obsessed with this.
He is unbelievably obsessed with this.
And we had a hole in our recording schedule, and I said, okay, guys, I want you to pick a topic to put in for this week. And Greg said, you need to put this in that slot.
Oh, yeah.
Even though literally it was submitted maybe a week earlier. Greg said, put it in there. And
it is just bizarre enough.
It is definitely worthy of being covered, but I think Greg is going to have copious notes on that.
Oh, I'm going to have so much fun with this episode.
Yes, you are.
And he is. He seriously is. And
I'm going to be like dead while describing all these episodes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's going to be next week. In addition to one other show, which it won't be probably as good and thorough as the second episode, but still, I know all three of us have things to say about the first episode. So those 2 episodes will be coming your way on July 13th. And don't forget, as always, please, when you go to our website or when you look us up on your preferred app, don't forget to please rate and review us. You got to give us those 5 stars, please. We're not begging too much.
Anything less than 5 stars, you could just take to us by email.
Like and subscribe. We're over 25 subscribers on our Podbean page. And don't forget to share, because sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
And also, don't forget, we're on all podcast services, and we're also on Amazon Echo. Right, Alexa? Alexa, play the podcast It Was a Thing.
Playing It Was a Thing on TV.
Okay, thank you. Shut up. Okay, quiet.
Apple Podcasts.
Alexa, be quiet. She follows directions very well.
I see.
Well then.
Yep. We'll next talk to you on Monday, the 13th of July, with 2 new episodes that week of It Was a Thing on TV. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow!
Oh, Helen was on Barney Miller. Richard Dawson was on Match Game. Bill Bixby. What was Betty White doing? Probably Mary Tyler. No.
The host.
Oh, I got.
Go to your room, Michael Klaus. Go to your room, Michael Klaus.
But tell me I'm wrong. She was doing the host.
Oh, I bet she was. She was doing the host all right.